Okay guys, originally I wasn't even going to talk about this because it looked to be a simple situation. On December 7th, 2025, on R's Day at Laguna Seca, a GTR had an issue and spilled oil all over the track. So real shocker there. It caused cars though to spin out and even send one of them into the barriers. So the officials there announced a black flag, which roughly translates to "you messed up and you're in trouble, so head to the pits." But shortly after that, they changed it to a red flag, which translates to "something serious happened on track and you need to stop immediately." And stop is a key word here for this story. So that's exactly what Artem Nazarayan did in his red R34 Nissan Skyline V-Spec, which was near the start-stop-finish line on the right side of the track. From there, Budget Optimus Prime came out with a stack of tires and the telehandler went out to get things fixed. Only problem was he couldn't see anything, and what unfolded was this.
The craziest thing just happened. This forklift right here, who was going to go replace a tire barrier, just ran into the red R34 GTR, the time attack car.
Which is really crummy, right? But it's a simple enough process. Car stop, track vehicle hits car, track is liable, done. Idiot! That's what you'd think, and that's exactly what hasn't happened. Laguna's initial response only said that there was, and I quote, "an accident involving a track support vehicle and race car. The track continues to work through the process with diligence and timeliness," and ends it with, "the facility remains focused on delivering safe, well-managed events while the review process related to the incident in December continues," aka a nothing sandwich. But the reason I'm talking to you about it today is because Laguna Seca is doing the old gaslighting parent thing and is blaming the driver for the incident. And I think I know how both sides could win depending on how you look at it, through facts. So yeah, that means that the track could win. So this is one that I think you'll want to watch the whole video on and then give me your thoughts at the end. And also, it is crazy because if it doesn't go in Arten's favor, that does mean something like this could happen to you or me. And you know, if we don't have as much of a large voice in the community to get support, could get kicked under the rug. Now, the three big areas to focus on here are 1, the flagging situation, 2, the waiver backup, and 3, the third party in this story that no one is talking about. At Laguna Seca, there are about 45 different flagging stations across the 11 turns, with most flagging stations placed leading into a corner, a blind spot, or in between a straight. When the session was black flagged, the rules tell you that you need to exit the track at the next pig exit and drive to the pit lane for instruction. At Laguna Seca, there really is only one active pit exit unless you consider turn 10's exit into the paddock as its second. But that didn't happen. The documents of this whole thing insinuate that Arten continued driving because he believed the black flag wasn't being pointed at him. This is important because a black flag is almost always directed towards a single person. And if it's not you, you don't want to come in to get scolded. You want to keep driving because you paid for it. And that's just how it always works. And if you're new to track racing here, just remember, a green flag equals good. Yellow means an immediate danger, so don't pass, you idiots, slow down. A meatball flag is black with an orange circle, your car is falling apart, remember that one. A white flag is last lap, a blue with yellow stripes is usually you're slow, so let people pass, and a red and yellow stripes is there's debris on the field. And red flag means extreme danger, stop when safe. Because the R34 went past the initial black flag, or because the flagging station didn't have the appropriate flag up in time for the straight, the only reference to what actually happened is what we see in the screenshot on Instagram, where you see a red flag with 2 cars out and the rest of the cars pretty much in the pits, along with Arten's lawyer acknowledging that he did see a black flag at the turn 11 corner station, which is already past the main pit entry, meaning he couldn't go into it until doing another full lap. Now, normally a red flag at Laguna means to stop off of the racing line and to maintain line of sight with a flag station. So that's what Arten did. And the result was a normal 10-ton truck running into them, which even the track staff said, "I didn't see you." And that's important too, because there's a lot of liability going on right now. But don't worry, the track then said because your car was on the racing line, they're not at fault. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to go pull up a Assetto Corsa, Gran Turismo, iRacing, or Mario Kart at this point. And I want you to look at the racing line for start finish at Laguna Seca. And you're gonna notice on the inside near the flagging under the bridge is where you go. That's the line. And if you look at the photo, they really weren't on the line. You can even see at one point when the car gets hit that the truck hits it on the right side, but there's a ton of damage to insinuate that there was plenty of width to go to the left side or on line. If you've ever been to Laguna Seca, you know that the start-finish line is you can fit easily 3 cars wide if you really want to. So maybe the lawyers just don't have eyes. I'm not sure. But the flag situation isn't as clear, and that's what's really important in this whole thing. What we don't know is how early the black flags came out. You see, you have a flagger right in front of you when you come down the corkscrew. It's like facing right at you. You also have another one outside of Rainy Curve off to the right if you've been there before. Now, that flag being black would have meant that they should have left the track if he was by himself. Now, I couldn't find any information on if there was somebody in front of them, but the indication based on how they talk is that there was. Now, I do think there's another one at turn 10 as one final attempt to notify these cars to get off track, because once you see it at 11, you can't turn into the pits. We know the flags also switched from black to red in between the corner of 11 and the start finish. Either way, black flag was waved, and if a car in front of him was thought to be the reason for it, Arton has the right to continue driving. When he was black flagged at 11, that would tell him to exit to pits on the next lap, but when it switched to red, he stopped. So the story changes as the car goes through the turns. And this is really important because so far we're 2 to Arton and 0 to the track. But what Laguna has left is the waiver and the secret third party that no one seems to really be talking about yet. The waiver is that little piece of paper that you sign that says, hey, if you get hurt, that's on you. That's the track's like ultimate trump card of protection because things on track are pretty dangerous. What Arton's lawyer is claiming though is that this wasn't ordinary negligence that could be covered under a waiver, but gross negligence, stating that driving a 20,000-pound vehicle with obstructive view without a spotter isn't something that can be deemed as a normal risk of being on the track. He even mentioned, dare I say, the forbidden 4-letter word. OSHA. So if a car was in the right spot of the track and based on the internet, they did what the flags told them to do, and the waiver is going to get challenged by gross negligence and OSHA violations, how could a track like Laguna Seca win this argument? I think I figured it out. Being on a racetrack is a bit like that weird episode of Black Mirror, where they really do like own you. It's hard to squeeze anything out of them because they're litigated to the moon. They have so many things that blame you for a problem. The one thing that they might have going for them is the first topic, the flag situation, and that third little secret group of people that everyone seems to be forgetting about. You see, in the IG post, Arton Lawyer states something really interesting. He talks about how the flag rules could be misinterpreted by a driver because of its operation. A black flag being pointed at a car that was in front of him and a black flag with a meatball are 2 different flags that have 2 different intentions. And Arton's lawyer stated that Arton thought that maybe the black flag was an indication that the car in front of him was having issues. Now, why is that important? Well, a black flag with a meatball indicates an issue with the car. A black flag itself usually means that there's an infraction that the driver did. But Laguna is not the one operating and manning the flagging stations. That is a different group of people. The rules of that group can be different than the track staff rules depending on how you use the flags. The thing to remember though is any sort of flag usage by an organization that might be renting the track and also staffing the corners with the flags must have their rules for flagging be approved by the track. This is important. Now, in this whole mess, the third party that I keep referring to is known as Turn 8, who was responsible, according to everything that I see on the internet, for the flagging procedures, not the track itself. Remember, this is kind of important because Laguna is likely claiming that the excuse of not following the flag procedures of coming in is what resulted in the reason that the car got hit. If the driver acknowledged a black flag was being waved prior to the accident, then there's accountability that the driver knew that there was a problem. Him being put in that position then is his fault. Probably the way the track is going to go. Now, him continuing to drive could then lead to a prosecution stating that if he did not follow the instructions of the Turn 8 flaggers and that's what caused the accident, he is at fault. But Arton's lawyer already responded to this in the letter saying that the accusation that a meatball flag would have been issued if the car in front of him was having issues doesn't count. because turn 8's rules say that a black flag could be pointed at a car for infraction regardless. And because Arton assumed that it was for the car in front of him, he didn't knowingly ignore the flag. The issue is that Arton thinks that the black flag was issued for a car in front of him because he saw smoke, which the track is responding with, well, you would have seen something with a flag with the meatball. Irregardless, there's multiple flag stations in between turn 10 and start finish. So even if he misinterpreted one of the flags, the next flag would still tell him that he is at fault of something, which again aligns with turn 11 having a black flag still pointed at Arton. The misrepresentation here is everything in this story, because if the black flag means to go into the pits and it was waved prior to pit entry and Arton is the only one out there and did not come in, then they're probably going to claim it was his negligence. If the black flag was representative of a potential vehicle issue in front of Arton, then when that vehicle entered the pits, Arton could safely be under the assumption that the issue was clear. Arton then acknowledged seeing that black flag at turn 11, which is key because it led to him slowing down, and then between that going to red, he then stopped his vehicle. Here's the thing, guys, and I'm being very specific here. It still doesn't fix the fact that when the flag went red, he did everything he was supposed to do. Everything I just told you doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, he did the thing that he was supposed to do. It still doesn't fix that the telehandler admitted he didn't see his client's vehicle, which breaks more OSHA laws than spaghetti when I'm making my famous spaghetti sandwich. Joshua Kohanim, the lawyer that you are writing the response, is insane because he came back with bullets, all right? The part that I always think is tricky here is that we're looking at a 2 parties out of the 3. We think it's just Laguna versus Arton, but it's actually Laguna versus Arton versus turn 8. The liability and claims here also involve that third party that most people seem to be ignoring, because if Laguna Seca is the engine and Arton is the driver, then turn 8 are the belts that give you the aircon. Laguna is only renting the track, and turn 8, according to everything I'm seeing online, is currently the one that was responsible for running the operations of the track. So if turn 8 and Laguna Seca don't have an insurance policy that outlines liability for situations like this, chances are neither of their insurance are going to cover this, hence them fighting back. But why is this a big deal? I'm a firm believer, and chat, you can judge me and put on your tin hats if you want. I'm a firm believer that insurance is made up. Healthcare cost is too expensive, and when you want to use either of those things, it's impossible because that's just how it works, which is terribly annoying. But what bothers me here is that somebody should have something in place to protect from this thing happening. In a perfect world, Laguna is not a perfect entity, but they're also an entity that has existed for a very long time. It'd be really hard for me to be able to look at a situation like this and say that Laguna hasn't handled a situation like this in the past, and my heart would want to say that they've probably done it the right way. So there's something here in the paperwork that's probably hiding somewhere that nobody wants to send me that outlines that somebody didn't have the right coverage, the right insurance coverage, the right policy, the right waiver, the right anything. And because of that, that's why Laguna went to their legal team and said, please get this as far away from us as you possibly can. And we're seeing them respond in a way that feels very not friends of Laguna Seca. And let me be clear, Laguna Seca, the people that run that track, the people that I've met that run their socials, that run their track behavior, that do their activations, they're good people. Like they're normal human beings. And a lot of them have been in it for decades, and I can almost guarantee you that there's nobody on that team that wanted this to happen, which is why it really stinks, because I don't think anybody driving would ever blame Laguna Seca for what happened. It was a poor decision from what looks like the person that was driving the vehicle, and if the staff didn't actually manage that process the right way, Laguna kind of just has to chalk it up and pay the bill. Is it an expensive bill? Absolutely. Are they gonna make that money back? Yes. Do you know how much it costs to rent one of those suites at Laguna Seca? It is absolutely insane. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars for one event. They're gonna make the money back just fine. I guarantee you. And everybody's talking about bad publicity and this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, that's all a big thing. But Laguna's not going to go away anytime soon. I love Laguna. You love Laguna. We love Laguna. We just don't love the sound limitations of Laguna. But before this event, everyone loved Laguna. This is just one of those situations where the lawyers could have come in and could have come with a much different language that could have made it a lot softer, that wouldn't have riled the entire goddamn community of automotive. But what they did is they gaslit the person who essentially lost a $250,000 car, which I can't believe is even worth that much. And now we're getting told that he was the person that was in the wrong, even though there are so many videos, clips, photos, proof that he didn't do anything wrong. The only thing that could have happened in this situation is that he didn't follow a black flag situation between turn 10 and turn 11. But even if that were the case, even in the worst case scenario, if he ignored a black flag at 10 and he went to 11 and there was a black flag, there's no way to enter the pits without going through another whole lap once you get onto that straight. So I guess, is turn 8 really the person that's at fault here? Is turn 8 the one that's telling Laguna, we don't have the insurance to cover this, you're gonna have to figure this out on your own? And Laguna's saying, well, we don't have the insurance policy to cover this because it wasn't our team. But at the end of the day, the accident was caused by a Laguna Seca employee, so they're both at fault. And they might be pointing fingers at each other behind the scenes to figure out who's actually going to pay this bill, which is why Arton isn't getting a response in time, and is also why he's going public with so much. But at the end of the day, it's a really stinky situation. We want to go out to racetracks and we want to feel safe doing dangerous things. That's why we sign the waiver. It's why we pay for track insurance. It's why we make sure that we've got the helmet on and the gloves on, and we try to do everything the best that we can. But when there is gross negligence of a racetrack, we can't, as drivers and as car enthusiasts, have to then look at the track and be like, how is this also my fault? At some point, people take advantage of you so much, even when you're trying to do the thing that you love. It seems almost ridiculous that I'm making this video talking to you guys about this situation, because it should have just been resolved. And if everything was resolved behind closed doors, probably be a lot easier. In the grand scheme of things, 6 figures for Laguna Seca, I don't think is gonna make or break them. What is gonna make or break them is the entirety of what's happening on the internet right now, because it is gross. But you guys will have to let me know your thoughts. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. I hope everything gets solved. I appreciate everybody sharing all the information about the situation. And of course, Laguna, I hope you figure it out too. I like your racetrack. Just maybe everybody needs to take vision tests before they jump in a 20,000-pound truck. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.